You were at the COP27, where poor countries have insisted that richer countries pay for damages being inflicted on their economies. How much of a political will is there among wealthy nations to follow up this demand?
I think we tend to think that it's maybe not the focus shouldn't be on that or the 100 billion or compensation for loss and damage. It's about making sure that the country can achieve climate action but not sacrifice development or growth, right? And it can be done. So our diagnostics show that if you manage it in the right way, you can actually reduce greenhouse gas by 70%. By 2030, by spending around 1.4% of GDP per year, but for poorer countries, it's like 5 to 8% of GDP. So they will definitely need more resources.
Right.
But it's one thing is about the more resources, but what should the resources be used for? Yeah, it should be, depending on the country, in many of the countries that are asking for loss and damage, it is about adaptation and resilience and preparing them better for disasters, yeah, whether it's early warning system or disaster risk management, protection and preparedness. And when the disaster happens, how can you minimize the loss and how can you have surge financing to help them respond to the losses when you have the disaster.
So how pressing is the situation, and how will the World Bank adapt to work on climate change?
I think it's a crisis, or it's a crisis of extreme proportions, in the sense that the impact of climate on poor countries and on poor people is already very real.
Right.
And if we don't do anything, again, we estimate that 130 million more people will enter into extreme poverty. 200 million people will have to migrate from where they live now because it's too dry to live or too hot to live. And the science is telling us the climate crisis is already here. Yeah, so it's urgent to act now. And inaction is going to cost you so much more in the near future, and it's going to be, if you delay action, the cost is going to get higher. Yeah,
right.
Because the cost of having to adapt to the climate crisis is going to get higher. So the time to act is now. Otherwise, you will have increased poverty, increased inequality in the future. So, therefore, you need to really have an integrated approach where the climate action. So, what we are doing now is in all our programs is to have this climate and development lens where you really focus on green, resilient, and inclusive development. For instance, sustainable and smart agriculture. That's going to help the livelihoods of the farmers. It's going to improve the quality of the land, the availability of water, and to the extent that they're using sustainable practices, it will also reduce the climate change impact, right?